Wanna know where is my tool bucket? Who took it from me? Broke into my house that night and stole from me. Using up blowtorches, quite insanity. Then got a rock and threw it through the window, the back door window. Snuck into the house, that foolish bucket foe. Took it to the pawn shop to get money. Need your hands here now. Hey, dude, man, coolest thing around. My show now, you're my hands right now. This is Adam Sheffield. Welcome to American Heritage Center Radio, home of the Property Therapy and Talent Development Program.
On today's show, we feature another episode of History Alive, where Adam interviews an important person from our country's history. Tasha Turner, who has been a Jackson County civil records clerk for 26 years, will play the part of today's historical figure, Harriet Tubman.
We have here today a most remarkable woman in American history, Miss Harriet Tubman. History Alive. We view the world through a property therapy lens here on the Property Therapy Show. And Miss Tubman lived at a time when people were considered property. So this is loaded with many property therapy issues. In past shows, we have interviewed Charles Darwin about scientific diversity, German pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer about Nazi resistance and who the Nazis really were, and we interviewed Joseph Smith about his property therapy issues. Miss Tubman was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, an extensive network of people dedicated to helping people transition from being considered property to being considered persons. It's great to have you here, Miss Tubman.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
You have lived an incredible life.
With God's help, God can make you stronger and wiser than yourself. God is mighty to save.
Yes, indeed. God is mighty to save. And you lived in a time when people were considered property.
Oh yes, the South was built on the cash crop system, and it used people as property.
Yes, the North came for the ideals of religious liberty, and down South they came for the cash crop. But here in the American Heritage Center, we want people to get property and be involved in enterprise themselves and not be property, but to have property or use property, to be actors, not to be acted upon, because it brings out the best in you in taking care of property.
They certainly did not take care of a slave.
Oh, yes, to say the least. Indeed, persons aren't property. They have their free agency to evolve, make decisions, plan for their future, and slavery locked people into those states and never let them develop themselves.
Indeed, all they wanted was us picking their cotton. They didn't want to teach us how to read or write or any property therapy skills for that matter.
Yes, and I know you love the Moses story in the Bible, in the scriptures about Moses leading Israel out of bondage. They called you Moses of her people. Is that because you led people from being considered property into being persons once again?
Oh, yes. I was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, and I never lost a passenger, and I never got caught. I had the rights to be free or die, but never to be a slave.
That's incredible. You went into the belly of the beast of the South 8 times and freed over 60 people. This is incredible, the amount of danger you subjected yourself to, how they hunted you, and how they wanted the Moses, and all the distance through the marshes, through the trees, through the cold, through the night.
Yes, night and wintertime was the best time to travel because no one wanted to be outside in the cold. That was our acting time. You just have to not get frostbite.
Oh, I bet. How did you avoid frostbite on your body property?
You got to stay on the move, don't sit still, and you got to keep a fighter's attitude to never give in. I kept telling myself, people can die 1,000 times living lives of fear. I prefer to only die once. Staying there in bondage, they would have killed me. Even worse, I couldn't play their game. I'd rather take the danger in the cold and my old Betsy.
So that's your rifle, right?
That's my rifle.
And you took that everywhere with you?
Everywhere.
So you used coded language when you got among the slaves in the fields. When you went down in the South, you had to be really careful because you couldn't be congregating among people.
Correct.
So you had to speak in code.
Correct.
and when you wanted to communicate with the potential passengers on your railroad, such as the lyrics like, Moses go down to Egypt till old Pharaoh let me go. Hadn't been for Adam's fall, should have died at all. Which are you saying as a warning?
Correct, yes. It was a way of communicating openly without having to huddle amongst the slaves and being suspected of plotting against the slave masters. It allowed me to intermingle among them very naturally. God's word shall henceforth in this generation, the Bible reads, and it was my way of hissing forth to let it seep in.
Right. So sometimes you couldn't hiss, though, when you came up right against the evil, like when you came up against your former master. That must have been terrifying.
Yes, I carried chickens in my arms as release weapons. When I saw him, I released 2 chickens and pulled the strings on their legs to make them squawk and go crazy. Then I chased after them to befuddle him.
So it distracted the attention away from you.
Correct.
Very clever.
Yes, I had to avoid eye contact at all times to avoid being detected, to keep my face from being seen. They didn't suspect me because I was so little.
We have here in the show Bowie Bird. He's so little as well.
Yes, he is.
And Bowie. So here, Harriet Tubman Bowie. Harriet Tubman is a legend in American history.
Oh, yeah.
Bowie's a bird that's a legend. They're the species of birds is the bowerbird, and they're known to create bowers to attract the ladybirds.
Okay.
And each year they watch the other birds,
Okay.
and they get more and more property therapy skills, and their bowers get more and more impressive.
I see.
Some of the bowerbirds have been seen to have like 5 feet wide
Wow.
bowers.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and so this is the time, Bowie, that people in American history were considered property. But it's not like that anymore.
No.
And so Bowie's here. He's learning lots of property therapy skills, and he's learning a lot about American history and
Okay.
a lot about, our future, and it's a motivational show.
Okay.
So, but here, that was a very clever ruse. And
Yes,
you
I had to avoid eye contact at all times.
Right. And so that was when you went into the belly of the beast, you'd always had to have like a fail-safe plan, like
Correct.
a secondary
Always.
escape hatch or a way to divert attention.
Always.
And to pull that off, it's just incredible. So you had to be like a part spy,
Pretty
part
much.
detective, part
Pretty
soldier.
much. That's right.
A part spiritual guide too.
Exactly.
Because the people were like, some of the times the people you were leading were they would get weak knees.
Exactly.
There's
tired.
one biography. They're like some of the slaves that you were leading away. They're like, oh, we want to turn back, and you pulled your rifle right to their head. You said, you want to go forward or you want to die.
That's right.
Because
they went forward.
Yeah, because they would risk the mission. That's it. Once you set forth on that track to freedom, you leave neutral ground forever.
That's true.
And but you, however, were a revolutionary, but in such a diminutive body, you didn't seem like a threat.
Correct. Yes, but I carried around these chickens for this purpose, to be my escape route if I got into trouble.
So you also delighted, and I remember reading in one biography, is this correct, that you enjoyed playing the role of the sly trickster as well? You told one story that you would hide in the woods with your runaway keeps hiding behind the trees and watch your white pursuers come down the road, putting up advertisers on the trees for the lost slaves.
Yes, how we laughed. They were the wise men and we the slaves, supposedly. But we weren't fool enough to go down that high road in broad daylight.
You lived in a time when people were considered property, and you would buy, if they're property, there's rights that come in a bundle of rights of
Correct.
property. Like if you
Correct.
own a car,
Correct.
you can buy it, sell it, or
Correct.
inherit it, give it to your daughter,
Right.
or dispose of it, or destroy the property.
Correct.
At your will. If you want to take it and to pick and pull and say, here, sell
Take
it
it.
off, destroy
That's
it,
true.
crunch it, get it for the metal, it's at your will.
Yes, would break up slave families all the time at the whim of the master. That was one of my main motivations to run away when I did. It was a horrid practice to be considered property.
There's no humanity involved in it.
Well,
They're just widgets.
Exactly. Well, I wouldn't play their game, and I broke the system. They could kill me, but they could never enslave me. I knew this was my lot in life, and when I went into the belly of the beast, into the deep south, I always went armed. They would not take me alive, and I would not go down without a fight.
The firearm is a great leveler for equality, isn't it? in the United States.
Yes, before they could cut us away from our civil rights, they had to cut away their access to their guns. I had my firearm, and I mattered.
Indeed. That's one of the things that they did in the South, is that they took all the guns away from the former slaves.
Correct.
And they could do what
That is
they
true.
want.
That is
and
true.
it set the stage for the civil rights era to come, and it just like
Correct.
stunted the black population for half a century, because they
That's
didn't
true.
have what the teeth to their liberties.
True.
It's curious today, though, how some have objected to artists portraying you with your gun, but you always had that with you.
Guns have mostly a protective role for rights and property. I had property, and I was not property.
Indeed. So what else was it about you that made you different than other former slaves?
The ability to make your own destiny, it turns a person from property to a person, despite what the law might be. And I would not choose to be enslaved and thought freely of my own accord. I knew the needs of humanity, and I met those needs.
Indeed. So what is it about you that made you different from the other former slaves?
The ability to make your own destiny, it turns a person from property to a person, despite what the law might be. And I would not choose to be enslaved and thought freely of my own accord. I knew the needs of humanity, and I met those needs.
Wow. So the ability to realize your dreams.
Correct.
And you mattered.
Yes.
And the kids we study and rejoice in their schools. We have elementary schools named
That's correct. That is correct.
after you, and history books. They laud your name. But the Civil War was fought over the definition of a person.
Yes, indeed.
Was a person, or was a person property? Let me ask you about something. Recently, the state of Missouri passed a bill declaring a fetus or unborn baby to be a person under the law. In other state jurisdictions, however, they consider fetuses or preborn babies to be property of the woman. Like in New York, they can abort right up until birth.
Correct.
And not have the rights of personhood under the Constitution.
So the woman can do whatever she wants with a preborn baby because it's considered her property.
Right. The U.S. Constitution reads that only those born and naturalized in the United States are citizens. So it seems like history is repeating itself.
Well, abortion wasn't something we had in my day.
That's true. It was far from common. But according to pro-choice view, the woman grew the fetus herself and props it up like it's a parasite. I've heard women talk like this in law school.
Well, I am always for the woman's equality and having the right to vote, and I've fought hard for this, to give a woman a voice. Abortion was not done in my time. Many had big families back then, and women had few rights. I never had any kids myself, but despite what you might think of abortion, a lot of these arguments sound somewhat like what the slave masters would say to us. They told us, we are propping you up, feeding you. You are our property, and we can do whatever we want with you. You dumb parasites. We had no specialness. We were just property that could be bought, sold, and beaten.
Wow. So what happened if the slaves, or you started talking back?
They would kill us. If you're a property owner, can kill away.
I imagine they could get pretty vicious.
My master broke my head open one time with a lead weight. It cracked my skull open. I lay there for several days. Everybody thought he had killed me. It wasn't until decades later that I could get an operation where they saw my skull open and shifted it back into place.
Wow. Imagine like that, to live for decades and having your skull
Crazy.
shifted in the wrong place. The
I know.
pain and the problems that would cause you, and you didn't have the resources until you became more established to get the
Exactly.
money and like support to
Exactly.
raise the money to help you get your operation to fix your skull. And the doctors are the contractors of the body, aren't they?
Correct.
And property therapists of the body property.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, did you ever learn to read?
No, I was always on the go, but I wish I had, but they never wanted us to learn to read.
So why didn't you learn after you had escaped?
Finding time was hard, but it was very difficult to concentrate after the master broke my head open. When they sawed my skull open, though, I bit down on a bullet to deaden the pain, like the soldiers in the battlefield. What they had, their arms sawed off.
Wow, that's excruciating.
Yes.
But you had your dreams and hallucinations your whole life.
Yes, but the suffering brought me closer to God. God wants to get involved and guide people in their lives, and He is looking for a way to get into people's lives.
Did you ever think of the larger ramifications of what you were doing?
All I did was focus on my job. My job was to save the souls from misery and guide them into the promised land of freedom.
From a larger view, you were creating a lot of instability that led to the Civil War. Are you aware of this? What you were doing, it was making the slave masters. They were losing their people. They were turning them into persons.
True, that's true.
It made it. People wanted to start fighting over the definition of property.
Correct.
And it came to blows and a lot of bloodshed, and more lives were lost.
A lot of bloodshed.
In the Civil War than all our wars combined.
Correct.
Incredible. Over like 250,000 dead. And then even lots more of the critically wounded.
True.
And all over this, and the suffering that people had, and so many people, even from the South, sacrificed their lives for a dismal cause.
A lot of people.
But today, we want people to understand the bloody mess that occurred,
True.
don't we?
We do.
And understand who these actors were, like these people that, they put the statues on there. And I say about these statues in the Civil War is whether you take them down or not, that can be a discussion you can have. But if you leave them up, change what the placards say.
True.
And to say instead, learn to be wiser than we have been.
That's true.
But leave them up there so that the people can see, well, this was the person that was part of the bloody mess that we had in history.
That's true.
And we want people to know our history, not pretend that it didn't occur, to wipe it out, cleanse it out. Do you think that gets us anywhere?
It gets us nowhere.
We want to frame, understand, and not to repeat our history, but not wipe out the actors that were involved and what the passions were of the time and how they propped up this system for so many years. Before I got into law school, I researched. I read the American Heritage Encyclopedia, which is like 20 books published by Encyclopedia Britannica. They're in my office, and I remember reading. These were original source materials from back in the 1800s, early 1800s, and they had their colleges and their scholars of the day, and that were justifying the slavery of the day. And I remember reading through one of these treatises that was prior to the Civil War, and this is what it was said: it says, "We're giving them places to stay. We're giving them jobs so that they don't have to go out there and fend for themselves, and we are helping them." And then along comes Lincoln, and then they quoted Paul, where Paul says, "Slaves, be good to your masters." And then, but they didn't realize, and that Lincoln got hold of this, that Jesus had redefined what the meaning of the word master was, right?
That's right.
Jesus defined it to mean the master was those that can do the most good to help others.
Right.
And he performed he was the master, wasn't he?
He was.
And he performed the most good. He's the sine qua non. Without him, none of us can go up to the next level. And so Jesus redefined the meaning of the word master to those that can do the most good for others. And so a lot of it has to do with theological interpretation. You can interpret the Bible in so many different ways.
True.
And Lincoln got a hold of that, and he pulled the rug out from under him, and like see what creepy crawly things were under the rug, and saying, okay, so if you would be if slavery's so good, would you be a slave?
No.
No.
Not at all.
If you're feeding them and giving them jobs, would you be a slave?
Not at all.
No. And he fought with that. He debated this with Lincoln-Douglas debate. Douglas was saying that kind of stuff, and Lincoln says, "Oh, really? if it's such a good and system that's playing an important economic role, would you be a slave?
Not at all.
Would you be locked into that, be without the ability to develop yourself, be able to move on?
Not
you
at
see,
all.
there's one thing to stay in a state because of your own volition or even necessity at times, but there's another thing to legally mandate it that you have to stay there.
That's true.
You know, we don't have that system. I mean, and we have the employment of at will in our society. I mean, you could get up and say, I'm done. I don't want to come back.
That's true.
There's nothing that says you have to come back.
Nothing at all.
No, and but it wasn't always that way, right?
Correct.
And so it's just incredible. So you were involved in turning property to persons once again,
Yes, you got to meet the needs of humanity with a passion.
and and that's how you matter.
Yes, indeed.
It has been wonderful having you with us, Miss Tubman, on the Property Therapy Show.
Thank you.
This is Adam Sheffield with History Alive. Right before us, Miss Harriet Tubman on the Property Therapy Show, live from the American Heritage Center, the soul of America. We are here with Tasha Turner, and she is the court clerk. She's been the court clerk here in Independence Court for 27 years. Incredible longevity, and she helps facilitate justice in the Civil Records Department. And if Harriet Tubman had not done what Harriet Tubman did, Tasha Turner couldn't do what she does.
That's correct.
We are all, we sit on the shoulders of giants before our time. And this is something to understand and appreciate, the persons as property. And even how segregation worked.
True.
It was based on spite. The segregation said, if we can't win the outright war with the North, I don't want my kids around those dirty blanks. Separate drinking fountains, separate schools back in the bus.
That's true.
And so what happens is they tied up the laws with a separate but equal jurisprudence under the law, saying, we're giving them we're equal, but we just don't want them around us.
That's right.
You see? And they tied up the law for like 150 years. And it wasn't until Brown versus Board of Education, the famous legendary case, where they said, if the reason for the separation, if the majority is enforcing the reason for the separation based on spite, you can never have equal. Because, if you go attend Brown University, get your law degree there, it'll never have the prestige that a Harvard University diploma could bestow upon its graduate. Because if the majority is running the school, the Harvards of the schools, you'll never have access to that.
Never.
And you can never have the prestige that you could have.
Not at all.
So they saw through that separate but equal was not equal.
No.
It was separate, but it was not equal. And that was the first time under the law that caused the separate to equal to go down spin down the toilet, down into the dustbin. And so after that, one after another, they kept challenging the segregation and saying, well, you want separate, but why? You got to have a rational reason for this.
That's true.
And one after another, they kept on bringing up case after case, and it just kept on dropping. That's what the civil rights era was.
Right.
They kept on bringing up lots of different contexts. Okay, and they call this in the law what's called smoking out the animus. And they say, okay, you're giving all these reasons, but what's the cause? What's going on here? And so. But this is the person says property. So this is the Property Therapy Show.
Right.
And so if persons are considered property, then they don't have the right. They don't have a lot of rights of preservation or rights to so many different things. True. It's been wonderful having you here, Tasha Turner.
Thank you.
And the Harriet Tubman is a legend.
She is
a legend in history, and
she is.
We love to have that. And so, but here on the Property Therapy Show, so we've interviewed Harriet Tubman on the show, and this is History Alive, and that's part of this radio show. So there's many ways to motivate people, like with historical interviews, puppets,
Yes.
music,
Music.
or History Alive in present time, when people do things in property therapy in their own lives, and they come on the show and they share their experiences. It's history alive in our time.
It is.
When you're involved with meeting the needs of humanity, with enterprise, that's history alive right there. And when you have property in your life, you have it makes you a more a valuable person in the economic sense right now.
Right.
More productive, being able to be productive, like with scooters.
Okay.
On this show, we've had the scooter essay competition. And it was the property therapy essay competition, and we had 5 judges, and one was a lawyer, one was a licensed psychologist, another was a faith orientation leader, another was an associate attorney, another was a pastor, and the standard is you write an essay on based on need and merit, why you need and merit the scooter. And it wasn't just based on need, like in at the Heritage Center, one of the property therapy platform planks that we have at the Heritage Center is both need and merit.
Need and merit.
Because if you just have need, then it becomes a morass, saying, well, I need your car, therefore it's
Right.
mine. I've got to give you permission, or you've got to buy it, give me money for it, give you permission for it, so you have to merit it, right?
Right.
So on this essay, the essay competition was based on need and merit. And we have to have that in public policy when we're devising programs for welfare programs or what. We have to have need and merit combined. The people have to be good stewards and manifest it that they are good stewards in their life somehow, you know?
Right.
Otherwise it becomes a morass, like down in South America right now, or like Venezuela,
Yeah.
or Cuba, but we have to have that. So we have the property therapy essay contest winner was Tilly Ayala, and she won the scooter, and she's here in the studio with us. Good to have you here.
Yes, I'm happy to be here, and I am excited that I won the scooter because I so much need it to make a difference in my community, and I must practice what I preach. And everything I wrote on the essay, I'm entitled to do what I said I was going to do. And right now my scooter is not working, but I'm hoping that I could get the proper therapy that is needed.
Yes, so it's in the
Property therapy.
American Heritage Center garage, and it's being looked at. There's a little tear drop leak in there in the scooter. When you shut the scooter off, it leaks like one drop, like a tear.
Okay.
And what it is the line. It's not leaking from the tank, but the line, the gas in the line it leaks once. That's what's the residual gas that's just in the line. So we have our mechanic here at the Heritage Center is fixing it. But this is part of the property therapy of property, in order to stay on top of things. When you take care of it,
It takes care of you.
it takes care of you.
Yes.
And for you, okay, so this would be the flow to part of the definition. We litigate this definition in property therapy in all sorts of ways. So the flow to would be the fixing the teardrop gas leak. That would be the flow to, which would be a maintenance issue.
Right.
And we define property issues into negative and positive property issues. Like negative issues would be like mob violence or break-ins and theft or acts of God or maintenance issues.
Right.
And positive issues would be like, well, how are you going to realize your dreams? How are you going to get your retirement from this? Or how are you going to obtain this property? Or how are you going to sell this property? So we have here would be a maintenance issue, which would we define it as a negative issue that must be addressed. So we have the flow. That's the flow to you take care of the property, and then it takes care of you. So it's going to take care of you
That's right.
That's right.
I really need that scooter because I have places to go,
People to see.
meet. Yes, and exactly. Now, the one thing that I wrote on my essay is that I will volunteer in my city of Independence, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I volunteer in different places, the Unity Center, the American Heritage Center, and also I started. I'm an activist, so once a week I am at the corner of Lexington and River, and I have my sign and my American flag. All lives matter to Jesus, including the unborn. And I'm out there doing what I said I would do, make a difference in my city.
So
Use their scooter.
yeah, the scooter.
Yes, I need it.
Yeah, so if anybody out there has some great property to donate, and we'll fix it up and have that be and give it away on the show for in the future. Like we're gonna do give away a car in the future or later on. It will, not for a while, but the property therapy is something that blesses. You bless it, it blesses you.
That's right.
And so that's one of the things that Tilly won, like she said on the scooters, that with the merit aspect, that you had a lot of volunteerism in your essay, and that really came through as the merit aspect, not just that you needed it, but the merit. And there are other things. What else did you put in your essay?
Well,
There's like you said, like where you would store it, right?
Yes, I do live downstairs in my apartment, and I have a
You live on the ground floor.
Yes, ground floor, and I could store it in my living room. But I need to get it fixed before I store it in my living room.
That's why. Yeah, that's
Yes.
right. Like if you were parking the scooter outside, it wouldn't be a problem. Like for that little, because it's just a minuscule leak. But because you store it in your apartment, you have to have it completely pristine, right? Because you don't want to
Yes.
smell in your apartment.
Yes, and that is what was happening before it shut down. It was that the leak and the smell of the gas was unhealthy, and
Right.
I had to
So,
get it fixed.
so this goes to merit, though, doesn't it? The ability to how are you going to protect the scooter. That was one of the convincing things that why you won. The judges said, I wasn't one of the judges, but it was the judges. That was one of the elements that feeds into merit. Like, how are you going? You need the scooter, but how are you merit? Meaning, like, how are you going to protect it? You know, if you're given the scooter, how are you going to protect it? You know, because these scooters get stolen. And so you have that place that, because you were on the ground level on your apartment, so you
Yes.
could just drive your scooter right into the apartment. Boom.
Right.
Right? So you had that advantage of location where you were at, and that was part of the merit aspect of the equation that you met. So that's in the work. It's getting some property therapy. So we're gonna post a picture of Tilly with her scooter being it's under property therapy operation right now. It's the mechanic Mike's getting a diagnostic on there, and then we're gonna go to the small engine shop and get the parts for it and do an installation on there. And
Yeah, and with that being said, I don't know who the judges are, but I am so thankful that they read my essay and that they voted for me to be the winner, because I really need it, and I've never owned a vehicle, and so the scooter is like my car, and I'm excited.
absolutely. So it empowers you, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Be able to get from A to B.
Yes.
That's how wealth is created, isn't it? Where B, point A to B, and B values it more than A, or being in point B is more valuable than being in point A, and that's how wealth is created. And that's why we've had that the parable of the pallets here at the Heritage Center, is that we've done a lot of palletry. We talked about on the show last week. We gave a pallet bunk bed away that you can make your own bunk beds out of pallets. So it only takes three and a half pallets and two 2x4s to make your pallets out of bunk beds. But the pallets is a parable of moving from A to B. It helps facilitate the movement of goods. So that's palletry. So we love drawing these parables and using them. We don't just talk on this show. We do. And you can testify to this. You always see me doing stuff.
I do. I can.
And so this is the pallet. The palletry is moving from point A to point B. And so we've also, in our custom frame picture shop here at the Heritage Center, we've made a lot of picture frames out of pallets.
Okay.
And cut them, fabricated, and make picture frames to form the eternal images, and we use the circle of life system when we're framing things, where the property, would take pictures of property and it being reborn into stages in the process like that, and then take pictures and then put a power eternal quote inside of the all the pictures there. And so so we're going to be doing that also with the beloveds, with the artists is portraying what people are right now. The beloveds are at the Unity Center, right?
Yes, another word for the homeless.
The homeless, yeah. So we're teaming up with artists. We're going to have them draw pictures of the homeless camps, like the situation they are right now, and then make a representation of like the dream world of what they will be, like that. And because you plan things spiritually, you plan things artistically, they have a way of becoming reality.
It's true.
Don't they? With like in Star Trek, when they created all of the flip phone or all the technology, like the beam me up, this stuff is coming to pass. As you think it comes to pass. Like with the quantum technology, they can beam stuff up and have it go into space and not even trace it. It just goes instantly, right to the satellite. You see that? It's incredible. The quantum technology. It's like, beam me up, Scotty. Take me here. Or the flip phone. People have the technology. So if you create it spiritually, it becomes physically created.
Yes, and I like to say, think it, ink it, believe it, and live it.
You're right. Yeah, think it, ink it, believe it, and live it. So that's creating things spiritually, and then they will be created physically. It's a matter of formality. And if you get around, it's like the Lord, all your guardian angels will conspire for your benefit. If you plan it out, you visualize it, and throw some prayers in there with it, it will come to pass. And it will help you gain wisdom. That's the caveat. If it helps you gain wisdom in your life, the Lord will hear your prayers, will answer you, and it will come to pass. And so we've litigated on this show all sorts of definition of property, and that's why we have our FTS rings here at the Heritage Center. FTS for Follow the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. FTS, and what that is we've observed that people that have a faith orientation in their life have a more purpose-driven existence, and when they have that, they're playing long ball, and when they do that, they take better care of property.
True.
And so on the show, and at the Heritage Center, we don't endorse a specific faith orientation, but we look into the different faith orientations, where they're coming from, and then leave it at that, and use it to channel to taking great care of property. And so, like one of the shows we've had, or on the past, we talked with like Joseph Smith about his property therapy, and because the Mormons have a lot of property therapy skills, and they own the most property per capita than any other church in the world. The Catholics have a lot more property, but they have a lot more members. Okay. And but so we litigate the definition of property therapy, and not only we've talked about the property issues and about the morale of the property therapist, which can be affected by a faith orientation, because it can help you hang in there, because it's tough being a property therapist sometimes, and you have to hang in there with that, and that's why you have FTS rings. So call to get your FTS rings. We have them here in the gift shop at the American Heritage Center. Call me at 816-674-3035. And Johnny told me that I have to say this many times on the radio, because when I first tell you the number, you beloved radio listeners are then going to get the pencil or the paper. And so the number is 816-674-3035. And these are FTS rings, stands for Follow the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, FTS. And how do you know to choose the right unless you FTS? Because some things might not be appropriate, and sometimes they should be appropriate. But how do you know when is when?
You don't know.
FTS.
Follow the Spirit.
Follow the Spirit. And that's how we know when is when. Like Jesus, he talked about, on one hand, he said, those that live by the sword shall die by the sword. And then on another time, he says, There comes a time when man shall sell his coat and buy a sword. So how do you know when is when?
That's right.
Those are seeming conflicting requirements. But so how you know when is when is FTS.
That's right. That's how we need to be prayerful. And if we are prayerful, we can be sensitive to following the Spirit.
And that's what Harriet Tubman did.
Yes.
She would have promptings when she would go like, turn here, turn there, don't go there. There were times where in reading her biographies, the Lord would tell her prompter, don't go down that river. And it's the easiest way to cross there. And she would be prompted, no, don't do it. Go this hard, nasty way. And but she lived through it because she did. She had that the inner compass within. And the Lord will guide you in your life.
Yes,
He will guide you. He that's how it works. He will give you impressions. He will confirm things that something is appropriate or not. Because that's ultimately what we're here to gain is wisdom. And the Lord will help you gain wisdom if you bother to think about it and think about Him and think about think about what He thinks about in the Scriptures, and you surround yourself with positive people or examples, spiritual people around you. And that's when you're reading the Scriptures. That's one of the things that you have is examples from people that have FTS in their life.
Right.
So they're examples for us. The best practice recommendations. If you're FTS, you can gather the lessons from being around you, and so that's the power of this. Of the property therapy and the FTS aspect of it. So again, give us a call at 816-674-3035. And also we have our American Heritage Center Contractor Angel t-shirts that are getting printed out right now. And what they are is the angel sitting on a rock with a tool belt around his waist. And it's the property therapy angel. And the property therapy angel says, "Why seek ye the living among the dead? This property has arisen." And the rock is in front of a house instead of the cave where Jesus was buried or interned. This rock has been rolled away from a house in back of it. So we litigate the definition of property in so many ways, not only with the different type, or not only with the property issues like maintenance issues, like with Tilly's scooter, and the flow back. We've had people on the show how it flow back benefits to you. Like one person in the American Heritage Center community talked about how the benefit to her and her son, that it gives her the strengthens her relationship with her son being involved with property therapy. And then we had also on here an Amish man, or he was an Amish Mennonite man for 60 years, talking about the health benefits of property therapy when you're involved, fixing things, helping things, how the extraordinary health that the Amish people have. So that's the flow back benefit right here. And then we have here with Harriet Tubman, like the flow back benefit here is not only her time in, she was helping people spiritually, incredibly inspiring and fomenting the Civil War. She really made her mark in history.
Yes,
not only in her day, but it resounds for our own time right now.
Yes.
The bravery of the woman and her spirituality too, and her powerful belief in God. If you think that you can have civil rights without the God or Creator, you are sadly mistaken.
Yes.
Because the powerful, like the civil right, like Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, these people that really suffered, really stuck their limbs. I mean, today, in comparison, the risk that they have is nothing like what they endured. And you know what? They believed in the God of Israel.
Yes.
They believed in that, and that was it's a source of infinite power. It's like a nuclear reactor within.
Yes.
Yeah, that.
Well,
It's
as a matter of fact,
like John Brown as well. He was he had a powerful testimony too.
yes. Well, I was going to say that Harriet Tubman, her life experience is what gives me the motivation and the drive, and I'm inspired by her life. For me to do great things in this city, if she did it back then when there was no technology and the things that we have now, I know I could do great things in this city, and that's why I'm determined to volunteer and to get that scooter running so I could go do great things in my city.
Right on. So let's give a shout out to our sponsor this month. It's La Plaza Restaurant, the best Latin food in Independence. Have you been there, Tasha?
No.
It's right across. You know where
Awesome.
Do you know where the Inglewood Theater is?
Yes.
In the Inglewood Art District.
Yeah.
It's right across the street in La Plaza Restaurant, and then it's right next to a bodega, which is a small specialty Latin store that imports lots of groceries from Latin America. It's incredible. You can get stuff there, piñatas. What other stuff is in there? Just amazing things in there, and it's a La Plaza Restaurant, and they're right across the street from the Inglewood Theater and the 1100 Winter Road.
I have been there. I have
Yes.
It's
been there.
incredible
Taco Tuesday.
food.
The food is great, and they
It's
also
incredible
have
food.
vegetarian food, which I love.
Yes.
So they serve really great things.
Give
They're
them a
really good.
call, La Plaza Restaurant, 816-836-8688. Give them try them out. Their website is restaurantlaplaza.com. And again, their number is 816-836-8688. Definitely put them on your eating itinerary. And that's one of the benefits or things that we've property therapy issues out there is the morale of the property therapist. And that can be affected by faith orientation or good food.
Very good food.
Yeah, or a property therapy and network around you, like having inspirational people that you can count on to help you.
True.
That helps your morale as a property therapist and to help give you ideas on how to handle things, how to stay on top, how to meet the needs and challenges of life.
True.
And to be able to meet property, and if you're taking care of property, that's something that is classically American. There's this new socialistic understanding that's creeping up in the younger generations of our time right now, and that's where in its most extreme state is where the government owns the property and the means of production. But here on the property therapy show, we say, no, we take care of the property and it takes care of us.
Right.
That's right.
You see,
Yes, it
we
does.
take care. We have property, not the government. We have the property, and we take care of it, and we pour our hearts into it, like John with his a magnum opus of his rental property that he's been working on. Have you ever? Is that the most? It's been a few years since you really put your heart into a property, hasn't it? And we talked about it last show. He's just doing an incredible job. He with the flooring, with the new HVAC system, with the completely renovated kitchen, and he patched up the roof problems, and stabilized in the basement some paint and some structural things in the floor joists. What were you going to say?
Doors.
On the door, yeah, he put in the new doors, fitted them perfectly.
Oh,
And
great.
Wow.
it's a beautiful thing. And this matters. That's what we say on the show. This matters. Property therapy matters.
Great job.
And you wanna matter. You get your property therapy skills, and you will matter. And you don't matter by saying you matter, right? You matter by
Action.
by your action, by being there when people need you there. That's how you matter, right?
It's great.
And so property therapy matters. PTM. PTM. Property therapy matters. And so on the show, we've litigated all sorts of definitions of not only property issues that are out here.
Nice
And
work.
John's showing his pictures. Yeah, this is his
Excellent.
magnum opus, his kitchen. He demolition opened up the wall. And when John and I first met, John was up in a genie boom up like 50, 60 feet in the air.
Okay.
And I saw myself. Do you remember when I had that genie boom? I had that man lift, and John had a man lift on there. And it's like, I began talking to him when he came down, and it's like, that's me. I recognize him. And I met my and he said he was a musician,
Nice.
performer, property, and I was like, that's my friend right there. And there's a famous quote that says, friends are not made, or Friends are not made, but they are identified.
That's correct.
Wow.
And if you are in the place you should be, you will identify the friends that you should have. If you're in the center of God's will in your life, you will identify things you would never see otherwise. That's how it works. And it will help you develop wisdom, and the Lord will help you move forward with your mission in life. You'll be like the ripple effect will come out, inspire all the people around you. And so we litigate the definition of property therapy. So not only the property therapy, like the issues of property, what properties have and how it benefits you back, but also what property, the definition of what property. We've talked about real estate property, like with John fixing up property, or with personal property, which would be like Tilly's scooter, or today with Harriet Tubman, body property, right? That the person's, and also the definition of a person versus property. So that's the body property. So we've also talked about intangible property with a financial planner, Lenny Cascio, and talking about realizing your dreams with your financial property. And then we've talked about with an artist, a guitarist, a KC musician, Nick Marshall, and his dad. We talked about intellectual property, songs, because he's a professional musician. And we talked about reputational property, which is called goodwill property, and how you can affect that as a performer. That makes you more valuable as you get your name out and that known. Because your goodwill property is not what you do, but what you're known to do, right? And if you have the goodwill property, that's like your the trademark and the street cred that you have that goes along with you. So lots of different types of property, and then last week, another type of body property. We talked about my chipped molar, and they took. We have here in the studio the molar cut back here, and there's a sharp angle here on the side, and it's very good for cutting dental floss. So that's still in the works. I've been so busy, haven't had time to get go to the property therapy, the dentist contractor of the body, of the teeth, but that's still in the works. So we get to a dentist will sponsor you on the show, be one of our sponsors to help me with this the tooth property repair, because it needs to be shaved down here. The molar has got to be capped, and it has to have a cap on top of it, right? Okay. And but because this was a tooth and it broke down. It has quite a large filling in it, right. And it broke down on there. So that's another type of property that we've talked about on the show. And then also, just to give a shout out, speaking of property, we also have property for sale, one of the listings that I have in Lake Lafayette County. We sold one of them already. We have the last lot available on Lake Lafayette. It's for $10,000. It's two adjacent lots that is adjacent to the lake, so you can push off your canoe. It's got cove access for $10,000. It's two blank lots. You can put a mobile home there or build whatever you want. Bring your camper there, etc. And if it's for $10,000, give me a call at 816-674-3035. Again, call me for lakefront property, which is hard to come by. And it's a beautiful lake, Lake Lafayette. And it has its own city municipality is the lake itself. They created the Lake Lafayette, the city of Lake Lafayette, just to control that lake. So only the owners of that property have the permission to go and control that lake. And so again, call me to get the last lakefront property available. As it's hard to come by. Call me at 816-674-3035. Okay, so we've had Harriet Tubman here on the show. It's been wonderful having her on the show.
Thank you very much.
And talking with Tasha Turner, a legend at the courthouse.
So true.
She is the servant's servant, and she embodies Jesus' adjunction that says, "The greatest among you is the servant of all."
So true.
And she's getting all sorts of eternal credit in the here beyond for the way she lives and the example that she has.
So true.
And so we've talked with Harriet Tubman and Tasha Turner and Tilly Ayala, the scooter essay competition winner.
That's right. Yes.
And talked about some Lake Lafayette properties and some tooth repair to come. And I thank you again to our sponsor, La Plaza Restaurant, the best Latin food in Independence. Again, give them a call or show up at 11,000 East Winter Road, Independence, Missouri at 64052. Go on to restaurantlaplaza.com and you can see their menu. And we've got a menu here in front, and their number is 816-836-8688. Give them a call. Order the food. Again, it's 816. Get your pencil here. 816-836-8688. La Plaza Restaurant, the best food in Independence.
That's right. And they were nominated one of the best Mexican restaurants in Kansas City and Independence.
It's incredible. And I got to know them when I was doing property therapy work on the building across the street. We talked about it on last week's show. So this is the kind of food that I love to have, because it's not the mass market flip the burger.
It's authentic.
It's authentic.
Yes, very good.
It's incredible stuff. And so it's been great having you with us. And property therapy forever.